Welcome to the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world, 12 years strong. We got a great show coming your way this week, as we do every week. I'm Jeff Warren. I'm here with my good buddy, Len Hunsicker. Len, man, how are you?
I'm good. No complaints at all.
No complaints, especially after the Philadelphia Union won tonight. They beat Montreal, getting back on track here. I love it. We don't have it on the agenda, but it just happened. I wanted to raise it right off the bat here.
Yeah. Good to just keep things rolling. I was watching for a little bit at the end of the first half, and Montreal tied it like right before the half. And then obviously Philadelphia came back in the second half with a goal and got the win.
Got the win, absolutely. I tell you, Len, it is summer. I have been going to some summer cookouts here and there, and hopefully we're going to have one with our buddies at the end of August, trying to set that up. I was actually listening to one of the recent New Heights podcasts with Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey. Every now and again, I'll put that on. They were actually having a phenomenal conversation about their favorite type of potato.
Really?
Yes, whether it was like French fries or whether it was like they were not fans of baked potatoes. And I got to tell you, I'm not a fan of baked potatoes myself. I just think it's too much work for what the end result is. I mean, I'll eat a baked potato, but
I'll grant you the too much work. I will grant you that it does take a while to cook, but the end result, I guess if you're not doing it, it's great.
Yes.
The end result, butter and cheese and sour cream and salt. It's amazing.
Usually tastes good. Will taste good, but man, the effort to get there, I don't know. In terms of like summer cookouts, just barbecues and stuff like that, dude, I love a good potato salad. Like I love a good potato salad. Like a Dutch potato salad is really good. It's got that mustard in it and stuff. Oh man, I dig a good potato salad. I don't know. What do you like with your potato?
I stick with the fries.
You stick with the fries? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong with fries. All right. Anyway, I just completely, I didn't even know we were going to talk about that. I just completely stole a new.
It wasn't on the agenda. Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. But there is a lot going on in the world of Philly sports, folks. We're going to first dive into some Eagles talk as training camp and the season is upon us. We're also going to be diving into some college football talk too, and what a potential college football playoff expansion might look like. Might it happen? We want to give our thoughts on that. Going to also talk about the Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid, Paul George, their health, and thoughts about the coming season. And then we're certainly going to get into some Phillies and Major League Baseball talk. Home run derby, going to dive into just a little bit. Kyle Schwarber becoming the first Philly to win the All-Star Game, MVP since 1964. And yeah, folks, the Major League Baseball draft just happened. The Phillies may have just gotten their pitcher of the future in Gage Wood. And what we're throwing down on the table this week, Eric Moratelli from thatballsoutofhere.com. He's going to join us to really dive into this Phillies team, where we're at here at the halfway point of the season. So that being said, Len, let's get into this upcoming Eagles season, I should say, because, while I think we are still, a lot of us are still hyped after the Super Bowl win. And part of me feels like, you know what? I don't even want the season to come, because they absolutely murdered the Kansas City Chiefs. I still have that great feeling throughout my body. But that being said, there were changes to this team, and there are questions coming into this season. A number of questions. Are there going to be growing pains with new offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo? When will Nakobe Dean return? And is he going to return to the type of form we saw 2024? Can Zach Bond still be as dominant as he was last season? Can the defensive line be as dominant after losing 3 key players this past offseason? So we wanted to kind of dive into, I have no idea, Len, what you're thinking about in terms of your question. I know you don't know what I'm thinking in terms of my question, but what questions are we going to be honing in on at the start of this Eagles season, whether it's even in training camp or the preseason as well? So I'm sure you've been giving this some thought, buddy. What are your thoughts on, that question that you're going to have for this Eagles team that's going to be pretty prevalent for you, whether it's throughout the season or just even to start the season?
I mean, mine are kind of more offensively oriented. You actually mentioned one of them just now, and in the the agenda, and that is, new offensive coordinator. How does that affect things? Does Sirianni kind of step in with the play calling more? How much of a leash does Patullo have? Is there a lot of new changes that are going to be happening?
Yeah.
And then another question I have is, the Eagles are now known as like a running team, run first, pass second. Obviously, Saquon had the amazing year that he had. I expect for this season for defenses to do more of what the Chiefs did, which is focus, like almost sell out on Saquon and dare, Jalen Hurts to beat them.
Yeah.
Even though he showed at the highest level he can do that, I still think teams are going to test him, especially early in the season. So that'll just be something to keep an eye on, how teams, not even so much how the Eagles will respond, because I'm actually fairly confident in Hurts and the receiving core and just the whole offense in general, but just how other teams play the Eagles early and what they try to do to them from a defensive standpoint.
I see, and I like where you're coming from with regard to that particular question with the offense too. I mean, I know you're not really on social too much anymore, Len, especially
Nope.
Twitter, which is good for you and your mental health, of course. But we're getting into silly season right now, where there are too many lists that are coming out, and there's
every day there's one on ESPN now with the position groups and all that.
Yes,
yeah,
yes, and
people are just dying for something football related to talk
exactly,
about.
exactly, and controversial. To get the clicks going, to get the discussion going too, and yeah, I'm doing that right now because where people have Jalen Hurts ranked, whether it's ESPN, whether it's some other radio outlets here and there, it's just ridiculous, and it's done to make all of us talk about it, of course, and to make the Twitter algorithm or Instagram algorithm a certain way. But I think it's interesting what you're saying. Yes, from an offensive perspective, you got a new offensive coordinator coming in, but what is that balance going to be between the run game and the passing attack too? And I think Jalen Hurts is continuing to develop. He is. And we saw what he did last year in certain situations, the steps he took. I think if they put the ball in his hands in terms of the passing game, I think this team is gonna flourish again from an offensive perspective. So I like where you're coming from with that.
That's another reason why I think that they will test him early, is because you do have a new offensive coordinator. There are going to be a few new concepts in. Early on, those teams are going to say, I'll bet the Eagles don't have all this stuff down just yet. Let's attack them now. Let's, get them out of their comfort zone. Let's force them to beat us, because we don't know if they have all their cards, laid out yet. We don't know if they have all their ducks in a row yet. So yeah, I definitely think it's going to happen early on, and it might take, we don't know. The preseason, I mean, the games you really can't take anything from, but maybe if you're following the reps in practice every day, I mean, that might be something to keep an eye on, because maybe it will take a little bit. Who knows?
It might. Yeah, absolutely. Look, one of my biggest questions and concerns heading into this season from a defensive perspective is safety position. Been talking about it with various interviews here on the podcast platform, and then what the pass rush is going to look like too. Like I mentioned, losing 3 key players from the defensive line this past offseason, certain guys are definitely going to have to step up. But I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction in terms of a question that I'm going to have, Len. And over the years, I have loved special teams. I always try to bring up special teams when, whether it's post-game shows or whether we're doing any type of NFL Eagles football type of analysis. But I'm wondering what kind of Jake Elliott we are going to see this coming season. If you remember last year, his regular season was brutal. He had a 77.8 field goal rate, which was 28th out of 36 NFL kickers, and he made just 1 of 7 attempts from 50 yards or longer. If you remember, man, it was a tough regular season for him.
Yeah, it wasn't great, and
the playoffs were different for him.
I think every now and again kickers do that, and I don't think he's the first kicker to ever go through that.
Right,
where you have one season where when it's done, you're just like, all right, flush it, because that happens every now and again. If it continues into this year, then it's a large story.
Yes, it absolutely is. And here's the thing though, he had such a brutal regular season, but man, when the playoffs came, he nailed big kicks, whether it was in the snow against the Rams in the Super Bowl, he was hitting long field goal after long field goal, getting it done. And like you said, we were thinking, he's been one of the most consistent kickers in the NFL since 2017. It's like, is he getting a case of the yips here this year? He certainly did in 2024. So I'm really going to be looking at what Jake Elliott is going to be doing during the course of training camp, during the course of the preseason too, and how the early start of the season is, because that we know in the NFL, and especially a team like the Eagles who are playing some real tough teams, there's going to be some close games, and a field goal here or there can really determine, where you're going to be seated at the at the end of the season. Yeah. So, all right, you got anything else for Eagles before we move on here to some college football talk?
No, I mean, you mentioned the whole Nakobe Dean thing. I'm just wondering if are they as worried about that if they drafted Jahad Campbell? It was he drafted pretty much as Nakobe Dean insurance in case
Great question.
whatever persists. I think that was done. I think that draft pick was made with a purpose.
Yeah, Jahad Campbell. I can't wait to see what he's going to be doing during the course of even during the course of the preseason. Please stay healthy, please. All right. Well, sticking with football talk here, we wanted to get into whether or not there is going to be an expanded college playoff in the future. This past week, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, he was, meeting with some folks and was asked about this. And he said this past week that while a 16-team playoff seems like a foregone conclusion for the college football championship, it could easily remain a 12-team setup if conference commissioners can't really agree on a structure, which is actually the case right now. The Big Ten wants 4 automatic bids for itself, but the SEC and some other conferences seem to prefer the 5 to 11 model. So we wanted to give our thoughts on this. And what's really interesting about this, Len, is at the end of the day, like, it all comes down to money here, because the college football playoffs original 12-year contract with ESPN ends after this season, and a new 6-year extension struck with the network last spring actually begins in 2026 with what was believed to be at that time a new potentially expanded playoff. So important to note that during all of this, the SEC and the Big Ten, they really hold a lot of the authority in what is going to happen over this future format, and they have to agree on a model before anything moves forward. So it really is up to the SEC and the Big Ten to kind of work this out as the super conferences within college football here. And look, I love the 12-team format. I absolutely love it. A 16-team model, I think, could also be very interesting as well, depending on how it is set up. I think the more teams that you have in a playoff type of situation, I think the more fun it could be for us fans. But I mean, I'm currently liking the 12 team model here. 16, I don't know, the number 15 seed, the number 16 seed, probably not going to be going too far within that structure, depending on what that structure is. But I mean, I love the 12 team model at this point, but I wouldn't be sad if they went to 16. I don't know. What are your thoughts here?
I'm fine with 12. I'm fine with 16. Anything beyond that, I think it's overkill. And I know, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to want their share of teams. I'm sure if they had their way, it would be 8 SEC teams and 8 Big Ten teams.
Right. Yes.
I honestly think those two conferences are eventually looking to push everybody else out and just have it be those two conferences. I think that is the long-term end game for Sankey and whoever the Big Ten, Politi, whoever the Big Ten commissioner currently is.
I'm forgetting who it is, actually.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm good with it the way it is now. It's just funny to me that we fought so hard to get, a playoff, and then 4 teams, okay, but it's really not representing everything. And now within like a year, we're expanding again. It didn't take long. But yeah, I mean, I do like the idea of 16, a good round number. Everybody plays the same amount of games. Yep. Yeah, I know there is some kind of benefit to being one of the top 4 teams and getting a bye, but I don't know. I like the idea of, you earning your way just like everybody else did, play the same amount of games. So I'd be good with that. I just don't want it to become SEC fest and Big Ten fest. I mean,
Yeah.
I want representation. I want the Big 12 to have a couple bids, the
You
ACC
want
to have a couple
ACC.
bids.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I want a couple. If you go to 16 teams, I would love two teams that aren't in those power conferences, a minimum of two
Yeah.
teams. I mean, I won't get that, but two is the max that they'll get. But I don't know. I like the idea of that representation.
Yeah, look. The NCAA has been pretty messy now for quite some time. I mean, there's a lot of growing pains going on within college football at this point. Whether it's the industry's new revenue sharing concept, the NCAA's governance model is going to be undergoing some changes, as we know. The structure of the bowl games, they're a bit unknown as well, and even the NCAA's eligibility standards are under attack in court from players themselves. There's a lot going on within the world of college athletics and specifically college football here, that you put this playoff situation into the mess, and you've got some people making really important decisions who they at times are not the smartest folks in the world.
Yeah, no.
As we've talked about on this podcast a number of times.
Or they're single-minded interests. Like Greg Sankey, I don't think he cares about college football. I think he cares about the SEC.
Yes.
And I think that's all he cares about. So, and he'll probably tell you that the SEC is college football. I'm sure if you asked him, he would say something to that effect. But yeah, I don't. There's stupidity there, but there are people that I don't know that they're trying to be honest stewards of the product and the game.
Yeah.
I have a general mistrust of that.
Yep. I absolutely agree with you. And we're still going to be talking about it here on this podcast platform in the months and probably years to come here. That is, if you're going to keep doing the show, Len.
We shall see.
We shall. Exactly. Right.
Cliffhanger.
Everybody. Yes. Well, we are going to be taking a break here, but before that, feel free to follow us on various social media sites. We are on the Twitter/X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads. Eric and I are over on Blue Sky. You can follow me over there. Just search Jeff Warren. For Eric, you can search Brick Pollitt. I'm over on TikTok at Mr. Jeff Warren. Do some sports posts every now and again over there, and some other content too, if you're in the mood for that type of stuff. Anyway, you like that one?
I know someone. I know a recent follower of yours is into it.
Yeah, over on Twitter/X. Yes. They're probably listening to this right now.
Oh yeah, you'll get something on it.
I'm just being monitored constantly.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. Well, we are going to take our first break here, and when we come back, we are going to be getting into some Sixers talk and some Phillies talk. We got a ton of Phillies talk coming your way. Let's take that break now. We'll be back in just a bit. All right, folks, we are back again. Len Hunsicker, Jeff Warren here at the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show. We're going to be diving into the Philadelphia 76ers here at the moment. My gosh, what a mess with some news that just came out this past week. Len, nothing says team bonding like getting knee surgery together. Nothing says like now both Joel Embiid, Paul George, they've both undergone some form of arthroscopic knee surgery recently here. Daryl Morey has refused to commit to an Embiid timeline outside of him being on track for, quote, right around training camp. And my God, with Paul George, I mean, with the things that he has been through, I mean, his injury outlook just so very complex. He dealt with a variety of injuries last season, as we know, missing one game for an ankle issue, 2 games was injury management, 5 games for a finger problem, 8 games for his pair of knee hyperextensions, 10 games for a groin injury, and 15 games for an adductor problem that eventually ended his season. And look, he was getting pain management injections throughout the season. Honestly, I give the guy all the credit in the world for trying to get out there. He played 74 games with the Clippers the prior season. And, just his age, where he's at right now. Again, I think that hyperextended knees did not help him out at all last season. Who knows? Who knows if he'll ever play 74 games like he did with the Clippers the prior season to last year? But I think at the end of the day, the verdict is going to be we're going to see a lot of young guys. I think to start this season, it seems to be where the team is heading right now. It's just the fact that Joel Embiid has not been doing any sort of basketball workout, according to reports at this point. Len doesn't seem to be on track really to maybe be starting on opening day. And what the heck's going to happen with Paul George as well? So a lot of the young guys, I think we're going to be seeing right off the bat, right to start the season.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Gershon Yabusele had a good year with the Sixers. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not saying he was like a franchise changing free agent or whatever, but given what you don't have up front and what, let's be honest, you're probably not going to have up front this year. Let's
Yeah.
be honest.
Yeah.
The fact
Yeah.
that they let him go to the Knicks is pretty crazy to me. Because I mean, there's not much there up front. I think they have the potential to be stacked in the backcourt. I think,
Yeah.
we know what Maxey is, which is great. We saw some really good flashes from McCain. I think I think that was a good pick. I think he's going to pan out. And Quentin Grimes came on at the end of last year and really showed what he could do. So, from a backcourt standpoint, if they re-sign Grimes, of course, with those four guys, you're set. But
Yeah.
they've got, if Embiid doesn't play a lot and George doesn't play a lot, and to answer your question about the 74 games, it ain't going to happen. Sorry, it's not going to happen. So they're just razor thin up front.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be relying on a lot of young players this year
Yeah.
that, quite frankly, I don't think are going to be ready for prime time. Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. There was actually a really, really, really good cover story on Joel Embiid today on ESPN.com that I read, and just going through the litany of stuff. And maybe it's because he was drafted by Philadelphia and he's been here his whole career. He grew up in the city. He had the thing with his brother tragically dying, all that stuff, and then the injuries. Where, I mean, yeah, it sucks, and yeah, he does have this huge contract, and you're just like, how much sympathy can I have? But at the same time, I still do. Whereas I don't have that
Yeah.
investment in Paul George. He
Right.
hasn't been here his whole career. He's been here for 5 minutes basically, and he's already hurt all the time.
Yeah.
So, for that, it's harder for me to have any kind of, sympathy there. But I'm at the point now where my expectations for both of them are zero, in terms of, how much time they're going to spend on the court. I have
Yeah.
no expectations whatsoever. Whatever you get from them, if they're on the court and productive, is gravy, because I think this is fully a backcourt team, and that's it, because I really just don't see anything up front.
And I think what we need to do as the, I mean, we've got the summer league, which we were, just watching some of the games, I think that excitement around the younger players, Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, VJ Edgecombe, having him out there, that type of excitement for the future, I think is what we really need to hang our hats on here. It may not be what we, trusted the process for, but I think having a roster with a group of young guys who care really could be a bit of a pleasant change in a way. And I think that's something we can look forward to.
Yeah. And I think that Embiid does care about how he's seen.
I think he does too. Yeah.
But I don't think it, like the article I was talking about, basically talked about him as a semi truck with the agility of a Ferrari, just with the fluidity and stuff like that in that
Right.
package. And it's true, but
Yeah.
the downside of that is just the force and the power that comes with those movements for a body that big. It's just, it's not destined to hold together. And that's just, it's the unfortunate, sad truth that, that we've been seeing for years now.
Absolutely. And I like what you said, Len, about the fact that, he was drafted here. He's been here for how long? He's been a part of this city. He's been a part of the sports culture of this city for so long. Arguably the greatest athlete in the city at one point. Hell, 2 years ago, he was the MVP of the
Yeah.
league.
Yeah.
Just 2 years ago. It's not
Yep.
like it was some sort of awful stint. And I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that his career is over, but it's going to be a different career moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think fans need to realize that, and also need to realize that he put it on his shoulders for many years. He put it on his own shoulders. But in this game, you can't just put it on one guy's shoulders for
Yeah.
that many years and expect a championship. He was able to get them as far as he got,
And it sucks, but it does almost feel like any conversation about his career at this point. I mean, and I don't think it's just us doing it. I think anybody that talks about Joel Embiid, it tends to sound like more of the past tense, like almost
Yeah.
a post-mortem on
Yeah.
what could have been. And that just seems to be, I think that's how the conversation is about his career, even though it's still ongoing. I think that's how those conversations are going to, continue to go, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's it for our Sixers talk here. Let's get into some Phillies talk to close us out here before, Len, I let you go, and before we get to our guest this week. Going to dive into the All-Star game, some Major League Baseball talk here. Talk about the Phillies draft as well. I thought it was really funny here. I'm looking at, if you see me on YouTube here, I'm like looking over at my phone because I have to read a text message from our good buddy Eric, who is on this podcast as well, with regard to the home run derby. Because I mean, did you watch the home run derby, Len?
No, I was working
Okay.
nights this week, and that was the last night I was working, so I didn't get to see any of it.
I'm sure you saw Eric's text to all of us guys where he said they're not showing the home runs during the home run derby. Split screen with a shot behind the pitcher and the kids in the outfield catching the balls. ESPN is complete trash. And I swear to God, they try to take the production level to another level, but in the essence of trying to do that, it takes away from the actual home runs themselves. Like they've got all this crap going on. They've got camera angles here, camera angles there. It completely is taken away from what the home run derby actually is. And like, it was this home run derby was actually really disappointing. Just did not have the same type of juice that it had in the past. And I think it's because they were overproducing it. Gosh, man, there are times Major League Baseball can get things right. And guess what? They did get things right with the All-Star game. I think, in my opinion, when they let the players wear their team jerseys, like I actually like that. I actually liked it. Yes.
Than and I know why those jerseys are made. The ones that they had been used. It's all about selling merchandise.
Selling merch. Yep.
I get that. But
the home run derby kind of stunk this year. It just didn't have the juice, man.
Well, maybe some of it's on Major League Baseball, but honestly, I think a lot of it is ESPN at this point. And I even I saw an article on during the playoffs where some of the people like Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins were kind of making the broadcast more about themselves than about the finals and the game. And that's just what I've gotten from ESPN over the past few years. It's like it's not about sports anymore. It's about personalities. It's a clown show. With that whole network. I mean, just show the friggin' games, man. Just show the events and stop. You don't have to, if it's that good, if people are going to watch it and if it's that compelling, you don't have to jazz it up.
Absolutely.
Stop overproducing everything. And there's times when I really wish that there would be another, sports super network would just come in and just blow ESPN out of the water. And because it's just, it's too much. They had the Sports Center anchors who became stars in like the 90s and 2000s. And they got drunk off that, I think. And everything had to be about personalities.
Yep, absolutely. It's interesting how Eric and I recently were doing a bit here on the show about our love-hate relationship with a sports personality. And I actually said Stephen A. Smith because I have for years enjoyed his radio show that he was doing. Like, I genuinely enjoyed his radio show where he's just talking behind the mic and he's not doing like what he did during the NBA draft where he's just yelling all over the place. And it's like,
Yeah.
calm down. You don't need to do it. You don't need to take that personality that you're talking about and just like put it right out there in front of everybody all the time when the camera is on you. But if the microphone is here, he's able to just produce some great content. Anyway, it's just, but
literally the only thing Stephen A. Smith does that I like, and I don't even get to see it anymore because I'm not on Twitter anymore, is after every Cowboys loss,
yes.
I would go to his Twitter account and because it was always funny, it was always entertaining. And then the day after,
yeah.
And then the day after, whenever the Cowboys would have their inevitable playoff loss, the next day, that's the only time I would ever watch that First Take show.
Yes.
Is when that would happen, because he'd come out in the cowboy hat, and that's always funny to me.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I can't do it with him.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you. But look, there were there were some good things about the All-Star game, which we'll get to in a second. But I wanted to note, we got some listener feedback from one of our longtime listeners, April. Shout out to our friend April from down south, who emailed us and mentioned how we forgot to mention last week when we were talking about the Phillies who made the All-Star game, Zach Wheeler, Kyle Schwarber. Len, we forgot to mention the Phillies bat boy, Adam Prognell. We forgot to mention him. He went to the All-Star game too. That's equally as important.
Super cool for him.
Yes.
I mean, how many people get to have that experience. So that's friggin' awesome.
It's awesome. We forgot to mention it. Sorry about that, April. Seriously, I got the email. I was like, oh man, I gotta make sure I put this on the agenda here. Holy
I wonder
cow.
how one gets voted in for that.
I know. Yeah. Like,
because I would always assume it would just be whoever the home park is.
Right.
I just assume it would be the Braves Bat Boys just because it was in, what is it? Truist Park or whatever their stadium is called.
Yeah.
I would just assume it's the home Bat Boys, but hey, good for him.
How cool was it that Kyle Schwarber ended the game? How he ended the game, the first Philly also to win the All-Star Game MVP since 1964. I feel like in that moment, they should have just been typing up, drafting the contract extension for him. Like, they're gonna need it. They're gonna need it for sure.
It's funny because, and I don't mean this as a dig at Bryce Harper, because he has, I think he has earned his contract.
Yes.
But I feel like everything Schwarber is doing this year is just what we were kind of banking on Harper to do. I think from a player standpoint, I know that they don't really, outside of the Yankees, they don't do a captaincy in baseball. But I think if the Phillies were going to vote for a captain, and if I had say in it, it would be Kyle Schwarber. I think he's a level-headed dude. I don't know. I just like him. Obviously, the All-Star game was great, but even beyond that, I mean, he's even turned a corner. I think just as far as the hitting, he's not, hitting 210 anymore. And it's always either a strikeout or a home run or a walk. I mean, it just feels like you're getting more from him. And I just think he's having a great year.
He's hitting singles this year.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Who knew he could do that?
Amazing what small ball can do for a guy here and there. So, well, look, I before I let you go, Len, too, I know you love the Major League Baseball draft. You really do sit and watch it. I was watching some of it as well, but I wanted to talk about how the Phillies drafted right-hand pitcher Gage Wood, number 26 overall. He could very well be the future of the Phillies starting rotation. And who knows, we could see him maybe sooner rather than later.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, he might be the future of the bullpen sooner than people think, because he has really good fastball, really good curveball, but that's it for right now. He has a changeup, which I know he's working on, but for right now it's those two pitches. And with a starter, you want like 3 or more pitches generally.
Right.
So, but a guy with an electric arm and a 2-pitch mix that's coming out of college, but just pitched at the highest level. He threw a perfect game during the College World Series playoffs.
Yeah.
So Uh, I don't think he'll be like, the stage will be too big for him, put it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's a guy that if he comes in and he moves through the system, I think that with the trouble that they've had with that bullpen, unless they make a number of bullpen acquisitions at the trade deadline,
Yeah.
if he is doing well and seemingly moving up the ladder, why not? Why not give him a taste, see what he can do, and yeah, long term, I do want them to develop him as a starter, but for this year, if he can help, I mean, they're in win now mode. So
Yeah.
why not try to win now? If he can help
Absolutely.
you, then you got to look at doing it.
Yeah. I was amazed at where at how many pitchers the Phillies took.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it
They went
wasn't,
heavy.
dude, it wasn't until round 9 where they actually picked another position outside of the pitcher
Yeah.
position. The first 8 picks, I
Yeah.
think, were all pitchers. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they saw it as a need, and everybody around baseball says same thing. You can never have too much pitching. So,
Yeah.
I guess that they didn't quite do what the Angels did a few years ago, which is all 30 rounds they took a pitcher,
Yeah.
which is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
But they came pretty damn close. I don't mind the strategy. I really don't. I mean, yeah, you need bats, but pitching's just so hard to come by good pitching,
Yeah.
and if you can draft it and develop it, I mean, it helps so much.
I haven't been able to dive too much into some of these guys that were drafted, but I've heard a little bit about the second round pick. It was number 63 overall, Cade Obermueller,
From
from
Iowa.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, 5-3, 3.02 ERA, 117 strikeouts. During his recent season, not too bad. He's listed at 6 foot, 170 pounds. Originally a 19th round pick by the Texas Rangers a year ago, but instead of signing, elected to return for another collegiate season. So, I've been hearing some good things about him as well. He does have some below average control, might ultimately push him to the bullpen
Yeah.
at some point down the road. But still, I mean, hearing some good stuff from him.
Yeah. And look, that's why you have your system. You get these
Yeah.
guys in, and you work with them and you tinker. And if you can fix that control issue, then maybe you have something. I mean,
Yeah.
that's so we'll see what they end up doing here. But yeah, I'm good with what they did for sure.
Yeah, same here. Well, we got the second half of the season that's going to be starting here, Len. I know they're going to be, I think they start off with the Angels and then the Red Sox, Yankees. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be tight the whole way through. I mean, I
is.
work with a guy that's a Mets fan, and we both we're talking, and it's like I don't think this game is going to be won by more than this, or this division rather is going to be won by more than 3 games. I think it's going to be tight, neck and neck all the way down to the end. So it'll be a very fun watch.
It's going to be a fun watch. It's going to be interesting for sure. We're going to continue following what happens with this Phillies team here at the PST Podcast Show. Buddy, do you have anything else before I let you go and before we get to our interview this week?
No, I did a bunch of yard work today, so I'm ready for bed.
You're ready. Somebody's ready for bedtime.
Yeah.
Yes. Here on this Wednesday night. Len, I'll let you go here, buddy. Folks, we got more Phillies talk coming your way when we get back from our break. We're going to take that break now. We'll catch you in a bit. All right, we are back to get into some more Philadelphia Phillies talk with our guest this week, coming to us from thatballsoutahere.com. He's one of the contributors over there, our good friend Eric Moratelli. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Jeff. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. Like, we got to dive into first and foremost what I wanted to get your thoughts on, because there's just so much complaining going on within Phillies Nation about where this team is at, what they're doing, what they're not doing. And yes, during certain moments of this season, yes, we have been frustrated every now and again as fans. But as of us recording this here on July 16th, as they're in the middle of this All-Star break here, this team is in first place in the NL East. They didn't have Bryce Harper for a month, Eric. Aaron Nola has been out since May, and yes, he really wasn't having all that great of a season, but still, they also lost Jose Alvarado to a suspension in May. The offense is 18th in home runs, nothing to write home about, and again, they're still in first place in this division here. I want to really dive into, I mean, it's not as bad as some folks are making it out to be at this point. Am I correct in thinking that here?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I will say this: people have every right to be frustrated with this squad because of what we've seen the last 3 seasons, right? I
Right,
mean,
right.
it's like 2022 was like the pinnacle, and then since that, it's been there's reasons for doubt.
Yeah.
However, a lot of it I think is also just because of the fact that we saw what they can do, and it's not happening. That's giving a lot of pause for some people. But yeah, the fact that they're sitting atop the NL East right now and not playing their best baseball really at all, and missing Bryce Harper for about a month, missing Aaron Nola for what are we going on almost 2 months
It's in
now?
May. Yeah, in May
Yeah,
he was
May.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Alvarado until August, and then even then we get him back, assuming they're in the postseason. He's not eligible to pitch. So missing 3 key guys at different points is obviously going to be a drag on the team. But I would still say there are concerns, but I don't think it's as doom and gloomy as maybe what you might see on
Right.
Twitter or some other social media sites. So they're in a good spot, but I think there's got to be a little bit more maybe consistency going in that second half.
Absolutely. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But man, like you said on social, it just drives me crazy when I see tweets or posts or whatever it is that say, man, this team stinks. It's like, would you stop it, folks? Stop it. They're in first place in the NL East right here. It's crazy.
The fire Rob Thompson tweets are the ones that get me going.
Oh, dude, yes, man. You know what? I got into it a little while ago with somebody. I mean, it was a few months ago, I should say, with somebody, and they're like, this guy absolutely stinks. And I'm like, there hasn't been a more successful manager for this Phillies team in like just about forever. And at least in recent memory. And it's like, he's like, well, of course, when you have all this talent, they're going to do well. And it's like, what are you talking about here? It drives me crazy, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Nature
right.
of the
Well,
beast.
yes, absolutely. All right. Well, moving on here, in talking about that consistency here and how this team really can improve in that regard here, it seems as though, some reinforcements and improvements should be coming to this team. Again, getting Aaron Nola back. We don't know what kind of Aaron Nola we're going to be getting, but the trade deadline is also right around the corner too. I wonder, how do you think this team can improve in terms of their consistency with some of the potential reinforcements that are hopefully going to get this team to another level and improve overall, whether they're bringing some guys up from Lehigh Valley. I mean, the talk about Justin Crawford coming up is definitely a possibility at some point. Maybe they acquire new talent. How can this team improve in terms of their consistency with some of the potential reinforcements coming our way here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm telling you anything that people don't know, but the 2 big things, right, are obviously bullpen help, and there's got to be one more bat just to make this lineup a little bit more consistent, and particularly an outfield bat, just from what we've seen from the Max Kepler. Brandon Marsh has been fine, but you're really getting nothing from Kepler. Rojas hasn't really seen the field much, so it seems like they're at least one outfield bat short. Justin Crawford is an interesting option, right? Because one, he's not on the 40-man yet, so they'd have to make a move. That's doable, right? They could figure something out there. Second thing is it's very he's not proven, right? So we don't actually know what's going to happen if he does get that call up. Could he be the guy that pushes them ahead a little bit? It's unlikely that at this point. So I really think at this season the best place to go is there's got to be something out there at the trade deadline. A name that has been thrown around a little bit is Stephen Kwan from Cleveland. He's kind of like that, the type of guy that this lineup would really need. Low strikeout rate, gets on base, has some speed. He would really complement well. And you could really put him at the top of the order or the bottom of the order and kind of then set the table for some of the top of the lineup guys.
Right.
So he would be a really interesting choice. The rest of Lehigh Valley, the guys on the 40-man are Weston Wilson and I think Cal Stevenson. I think Buddy Kennedy left. So those are depth pieces if someone's hurt, right? So kind of throw that out the window. So I really think your best option here is to get a guy like Stephen Kwan. And then there absolutely has to be a move in the bullpen. You got, I've seen this trade package kind of thrown out there, get Steven Kwan and throw in Emmanuel Clase with that, all done in one deal. Obviously, the prospect haul you're going to have to give up is going to be considerable, but at this point, the front office has to weigh how far are we willing to go? How much of the future are we willing to mortgage to get to this point? We have an aging core, right? We're got Schwarber, becoming a free agent, Real Muto becoming a free agent, other guys just aging. So it's how much do you push to get it right now between this year and potentially next year before we start seeing a bigger shift in the roster.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where this front office decides to go in the very near future here. And, it really brings me to the next topic too, Eric, that all really good teams in professional sports have an identity, and many tend to have an identity for a significant period of time. Sometimes it takes teams longer to find that identity than others. And when I mean like teams that are successful within whatever professional sport that they are playing, does this Phillies team have a particular identity at this point in 2025 that you have seen that you can really hone in on? And if so, what do you think that identity is? And if you don't think they have an identity, what could that identity become? Or are we on the cusp of some sort of Phillies identity here in 2025?
That's a really good question, Jeff. In years past, right, like 2022, and even going back to like the 07, 08 teams, it was kind of like the identity was, not going down without a fight. They were in it almost every single game, every single night you're watching. They could go down 11-3 in the fourth inning, and it's like, might be worth staying tuned because you never know what kind of big inning could come up. They've shown glimpses of that earlier in the season, but lately, I really think this team does lack an identity. It's like, okay, we'll pitch well and then maybe hit every 3 or 4 days. Like and then the offense is just by the sixth inning, if they're down 3 or 4 runs, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of sitting here like, what part of the lineup are we actually going to get something from here?
Right.
Unless 2 guys get on base and Schwarber hits a 3-run shot, where are we getting this production from? Because they're not really hitting home runs. They are scoring a little bit on the small ball, but the problem is they're not hitting with runners in scoring position. So the identity, I think, needs to go back to being like kind of that gritty team that can work out a win and get runs across the plate. Pitching's not the issue right now. To me, the scariest thing about this team is the lineup and scoring runs for these starters who are giving you a quality start almost every single time they take them out. So to me, I think the identity has to be more like get gritty, be more consistent at the plate, and do whatever it takes to score a run.
I feel like the majority of hitters on this team are not only in their own heads every now and again, but the team is feeling a pressure because they see the window, they know the window, they understand where that window is, that window of opportunity for success. And I get this feeling, it's a vibe that I personally have, Eric, that they're not meeting the moment because of the pressure. And I don't know if you're feeling that as well. And I don't know how these guys from a sports psychology perspective get out of this, actually, aside from having more consistency that, we were just talking about. I don't know. Are you getting that vibe at all?
Yeah, I could totally see that. I think, especially the market that these guys are playing in, right? It's a market that has really lofty expectations, especially with what the area has seen over the last couple of years, which we alluded to earlier in the show. It's so I think they're definitely putting some pressure there, and I think you're right. It's one of those things where the only way to get out of it is kind of get out of your own head, which is obviously we're sitting here behind a computer, easier said than done. But these guys we've seen it. They have talent, right? Bryce can hit, Trey can hit, Kyle Schwarber can hit. Castellanos is going to be, he's going to be streaky, but he's shown glimpses. But it's just now putting that all together because they actually have done what a lot of people have wanted them to do this season. They've cut back on whiff rates and they've cut back on strikeouts. And I think they're actually, maybe not everyone on the team, but a lot of these guys are actually seeing more pitches per at bat, I think, too. So they're actually doing what we want, but is it at the sacrifice of just letting these guys go out and not think about anything when they go up and hit?
Right.
Maybe that's the way to go because
maybe it is.
The power numbers are down, the run numbers are down. So who knows? But, I think you're right. I think they are pressing a little bit because they know where they're at with everything. And they just have to get back to doing what these guys can do.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, you mentioned the starting rotation and just how they have actually been the most consistent during the course of this year. I mean, your starting pitchers are really providing that consistency for this team, and I feel like we have really been spoiled with this starting rotation over the past several years. I think some Phillies fans forget how terrible things were on the mound, say 10 years ago or so, Eric. Let's go back to 2015. Guys like Sean O'Sullivan, Jerome Williams, David Buchanan, just to name a few, were out there on the mound, and you'd be sitting there like sweating. Oh my gosh, what is going to happen here in terms of these guys pitching? This starting rotation, though, however, has been so solid. And I think the Phillies know that they need to keep this going. I think Dave Dombrowski in the front office know that this is a part of the recipe for success, and they drafted just a short time ago here, drafted a right-handed pitcher in Gage Wood, 26th overall in the draft here this past week. What are your thoughts on what the starting rotation has really meant to this team and organization, and what it's going to continue to mean to them in the future?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you look at the contrast between what we're looking at, even the last couple of years, right? Probably going back to like 2023 or so, how this starting rotation has kind of transformed into what it is today. It's everything to this team. If the starting rotation was half as good, there's a chance this team is 5 or 6 games out of first place. I mean, they're keeping this offense and bullpen afloat.
Yeah.
Zach Wheeler is having another stellar season. Christopher Sanchez kind of keeps taking that next step. Ranger Suarez is showing that he's healthy as of right now. They're doing this, missing Aaron Nola. And like you said earlier, he wasn't even, he was off in the beginning of the season. So they're really getting the contributions that they need to from a lot of these guys. And the starting pitching is just everything. They always say, pitching is what wins championships. And I think they're in such a good spot now for the future too. I know Andrew Painter has not lived up to the hype necessary right now in AAA, but I think it's also really important to remember the guy's 22 years old, coming off Tommy John surgery, and he's never pitched at a level higher than AA before in his professional career. So seeing some of this struggle, actually, I think is almost a blessing in disguise, right? Let him get it out of the way now. Let him learn how to deal with adversity before throwing him in, just calling him up for the sake of calling him up so fans can go see him. Mick Abel had a couple good starts, but again, it's his first time in the major leagues. He's also very young, so let him figure it out. So your future's really good there. Gage Wood, drafting this college pitcher, potentially could even really, I saw some people talking, he could even potentially be a bullpen piece down the stretch this season. But their plan, I think, for him is to transition, to keep him as a starter. But being out of college, he's going to be able to make an impact sooner rather than later. I mean, the rotation, I think, now barring any trading of these pieces, is really set for the considerable future here.
Yeah, absolutely. It really, I think, goes to show that the front office has a vision here for what the Phillies should and could be at some point down the road here. And again, folks, we're talking to Eric Moratelli from thatballsoutahere.com. Buddy, let everybody tell everybody, I should say, where they can find you on the socials out there, and where they can find your work as well.
Yeah, so my main social that I use is Twitter, X, and what's it called? My username, I guess.
Your handle.
Yeah, handle. There you go.
Yes.
I don't know all these words. At Eric_Moratelli. And I'll usually repost everything, but thatballsoutahere.com is also a place where you can find it. This has been a nice busy week with draft, all-star, prospect stuff. So it's a lot of stuff coming out these last couple days.
Look, Len and I were talking about it before you jumped on it. Like it was a decent all-star game too that we saw. I couldn't believe it. Like an actual all-star game. And yes, we might be a little biased because of what Kyle Schwarber did.
It's gimmicky. But even before that, I thought it was a close. It was a close game. Both there's really good players in it, and it's hilarious because I saw a lot of discourse on Twitter about the swing off last night as it was happening. And it's obviously one of those things, you could never actually have a game that matters be decided by this, but for an all-star game, that was like a perfect way to end that. Why risk an injury to a pitcher? Why just do it that way? It was gimmicky, but it was fun.
It was great. Absolutely. Well, let's get into, as we're moving along with the discussion here, the Phillies bullpen here. The bullpen has just been so up and down all season. Such inconsistency there. And yes, as we said earlier, there are certain frustrating aspects of this team. We shouldn't lose our minds necessarily. Philly's probably looking to bring in a bullpen piece before the trade deadline. But what do you see happening with certain talent in the bullpen, Eric, that gives you hope and that also gives you some pause as well?
So I think the biggest thing that gives me pause, I'll start with the bad. Um, Obviously, I think this wouldn't be a surprise to anyone. The Jordan Romano signing is not going as planned.
Oh,
He
yes,
was
that
supposed
stinks.
to be one of
Yes.
one of your late inning guys, and because of that, everyone else is kind of now bumped to another role.
Yeah.
And you don't losing Alvarado obviously is a big kick there too. But now you're relying on Kerkering, who's still relatively young. Let's remember to kind of be your closer, if you could really give the Phillies a true closer.
Yeah.
And he's one of those. He's still a little inconsistent, right? He had a really good start. Last couple games have been a little shaky. Matt Strom's actually been really good. His last, I would say, last 2 weeks or so, and his last like 15 innings, I think he's only given up like 4 earned runs, and he's getting some strikeouts. The problem, I think, is lack of depth beyond that. You have guys like Max Lazar, who's actually been pitching okay, but do you really want to see him in the 8th or 9th inning? I
No.
don't. Daniel Robert has actually been pitching really well in the 4 innings he's pitched. He's
Right.
only given up 1 earned run and has 8 strikeouts. But again, do not want to see him closing out a game. So you're kind of at a point where the biggest issue here is that your options are so limited. The other day when Kerkering wasn't available because he pitched the night before, it's like, okay, well, who can we throw out there? It's some mixture of those guys. Joe Ross, Tanner Banks has been serviceable, but again,
He's been
not a guy I
serviceable.
really want to see
Yeah.
he's been good. I've
Yeah.
nothing bad to say about what he's doing in his role, but I don't want to see him elevated a role. And that's the problem that they're seeing with this bullpen. People are pitching in roles that they're not really equipped to pitch in. Strom, I think, is really the only guy who has pitched in these high leverage situations consistently before with this team. So seeing him in the 8th and 9th inning, I'm totally fine with. Kerkering is my confidence is pretty good with Kerkering.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is not a knock on him at all. But again, it's just he's still young. He still, I think, needs to throw the fastball a little bit more because I think he's way too reliant on the sweeper. And if he doesn't have the feel for that, he just kind of looks lost out there.
Yeah.
But it's so I think adding a piece will be huge. Getting Alvarado back at least for most of August and September will be nice. And it's, again, as we kind of said, it's not necessarily out of the question to see some of these guys they just drafted. So Gage Wood is the primary one, but there's another guy, Gabe Craig, who they drafted in the 5th round, who is 24 already. He was redshirted a season in college, but he's been compared to Kerkering with his slider. And listening to Brian Barber talk the other day after the draft, they rate his slider as one that could play in the majors right now. So if they're really in a pickle and they can't figure something out, they do maybe. And again, do we want to rely on a guy who's making who's going to have like 2 weeks of major league experience,
Right.
closing out or pitching in big innings? Probably not, but there are some options there. Biggest thing though, get someone at the deadline.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, buddy, before I let you go, I wanted to dive into just from an overall perspective as we're going to be coming out of the all-star break here. A lot of those negative Nellies are going to be out in force when this team returns to action, when they return to the field in these upcoming series against the Angels, the Red Sox, and the Yankees here. What do you think this Phillies team needs to do during the second half of the season to really show the Major League Baseball world that they are one of the top contenders in baseball? Do you have any thoughts here on this?
Yeah, I think they need to score runs consistently. They can't go out there and do what it seems like every team has done since, at least since I was born anyway, where if they go out and score 10 runs, the next 3 days they score a combined like 3.
Right.
So they need to just start scoring runs consistently. And I think it's just like we talked about earlier when we were talking about the offense. I really think that's where this mostly lies. Obviously, the bullpen. I think that's an easier issue to address. The lineup is the harder issue to address because you have so many guys under contract or under big contracts, and you can't just keep bringing on a superstar. So like, you can't go out and trade for another superstar, right?
Yeah.
So these guys, what we need to see is consistent at bats and a big boost in average with runners in scoring position. That would make me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, very, very happy.
Make me happy, buddy. It would make me happy watching this team. And again, folks, this 2025 Philly season hasn't been all terrible. Can they be better in certain areas? Absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to keep focusing on this team, what they're doing before the trade deadline and beyond, as we are hopefully looking towards the postseason. And Eric, it was great talking to you, man. Always great having you on the show. Please come back, join us. We'll get into some more Phillies talk. I'd love to have you back on the show, my friend.
Absolutely, Jeff. I always have a good time talking with you.